Marcus spent 3 years building the algorithm. Every line of code was his. Every architecture decision was his. Every test, every failure, every fix at 2 a.m. 4,200 Git commits, all under his name. His boss, Victor, attended 0 technical reviews. Not one. Not in 3 years. In February 2024, Victor stood before a room of investors. He adjusted his jacket. He clicked to slide 3. He did not hesitate. He said, "I spent 3 years developing this model." Marcus was in the back row. He had prepared those slides. He had written every talking point. He had briefed Victor that morning for 40 minutes. Victor had asked him to spell out a technical term. 2 months later, Marcus was fired. Stated reason: performance issues. The algorithm was licensed to a national bank 6 weeks later. The deal: $4.2 million. Stay with me. This is not a story about what was lost. It is about what was saved, about what a man builds when something feels wrong, and what those records become when a judge orders discovery. Marcus had been at Arkon Financial for 5 years. Arkon was a fintech startup, 60 employees. They built fraud detection software for mid-size lenders. When Marcus arrived, the fraud tools were manual and slow. 3 teams ran 3 different spreadsheets. Nobody produced a consistent risk assessment. Every department had its own version of the answer. Marcus was hired to fix this. He was 31, senior software engineer. He had come from a larger firm before Arkon. There he built risk infrastructure for consumer credit products. He had one working habit that defined him above all others. He documented everything, every decision, every choice. He wrote long commit messages, not descriptions of what changed, explanations of why he made each specific choice. He believed, if a decision cannot be explained, it is not ready. He had worked this way since his first job out of university. It was not discipline, it was character. His manager at Arkon was Victor Chen. Victor was 42 years old, VP of Engineering, hired 18 months before Marcus, an MBA, 7 years in product management. He had moved into engineering leadership before Arkon. He had not written production code since 2011. This alone is not a problem. Many strong engineering leaders do not code. Leadership is a different skill. But the issue was not what Victor could not do. The issue was what Victor understood about Marcus's abilities, and how quickly he moved to position those abilities as his own. The engineering team had a nickname for Victor. They called him the translator. They said it quietly, behind his back, never to his face. He had one specific skill, and he had sharpened it over years. He took technical concepts from other people. He absorbed them in briefings and one-on-ones and email threads. Then he stood in front of senior leadership. He presented those concepts as his own insight, as original vision, as strategic thinking. He was convincing at this. He was practiced. He had been doing it at every company before Arkon. But there is more to this than a manager taking credit. Victor was not careless about it. He was strategic. He chose what to absorb and when to present it. He timed his appearances carefully. He showed up for the meetings that were recorded. He skipped the ones that were documented by engineers. He knew the difference between a demo and a commit. He knew which room produced the visible record. Over time, Marcus became invisible in the rooms that mattered, present in the work, absent in the narrative. Victor managed this gap like a product. He maintained it. He refreshed it with every new presentation, every new pitch deck, every new audience that had not yet seen the truth. Marcus assumed this was simply how management worked. You build the thing. Your manager explains it upward. They represent the team. That is the arrangement. That is how organizations function. That assumption cost him $4.2 million. Marcus spent his first year at Arkon building the core fraud engine. He called it the Arkon Risk Layer. No official product name had been assigned yet. He needed a label for his commit messages. The model trained on 5 years of Arkon transaction data. It flagged high-risk loan applicants in under 200 milliseconds. Accuracy rate at launch, 91.4%. He worked on it through year 2. 18 incremental improvements, all documented. every change explained in the commit record. By the end of year 2, 94.7% accuracy. During this time, the product team began calling it Victor's fraud layer. Marcus noticed this. He mentioned it once to a product manager in passing. She shrugged and said it was shorthand. He moved on. In year 2, Victor presented the algorithm at a board meeting. Marcus was not invited to the room. A colleague mentioned it to him afterward over lunch. He asked to see the deck. The deck credited the work to our engineering leadership. Marcus's name appeared nowhere in the presentation, not in the credits, not in the footnotes, not anywhere. He brought this up with Victor the following morning. They were standing in the small kitchen on the 3rd floor. Victor poured a cup of coffee. He was entirely calm, warm, easy. He said, "You know how this works. Investors need a name, a face, one person accountable. You do the real work. I tell the story. The work is what matters. That is you." Marcus trusted this. He was not satisfied, but the explanation sounded reasonable. The man delivering it was warm. He moved on. But it gets worse. Year 3 arrived. A major investor pitch was scheduled. A Series B round. $11 million on the table. Victor came to Marcus 2 weeks before the presentation date. He needed everything prepared. Model architecture, accuracy benchmarks, fraud prevention data. He said 40 pages minimum. Marcus produced 43. Victor reviewed the deck once, 20 minutes. He asked no technical questions. He offered no structural feedback. He said, "This is great. I have got it from here." The pitch was on a Thursday afternoon. Marcus sat in the back row. Victor stood at the front of the room. He made eye contact with the lead investor. He spoke without notes. He said, "I spent 3 years developing this model. No hesitation, no qualifier, no acknowledgement of anyone behind him." Marcus had not felt this before. Not anger, not certainty. A shift. A quiet, specific change. Like something in the room had changed while he stood in it. He went home that evening. He opened his personal laptop. He started saving everything, and then it gets specific. He did not save randomly. He saved strategically. Every Slack message about the algorithm, every email where he had proposed an architecture, every version of every deck he had produced for Victor. He built a timeline from his own commit messages, a technical history of every decision he had ever made. He could show when each function was written. He could show when each accuracy milestone was hit. He could show who was in the room for each review. The Git history was the most important artifact. 4,200 commits, everyone dated, everyone authored. The authorship field in a Git commit does not lie. It does not defer to management. It does not respect titles or presentations. It records what was typed, when, and by whom. He had been writing this record for 3 years. He never knew he would need it. 3 weeks after the investor pitch, a job posting went internal. Principal engineer, risk infrastructure, a direct promotion from Marcus's current level, $34,000 more per year, equity refresh included. The description was specific to an unusual degree. It listed the exact technical responsibilities Marcus had been carrying. It described the fraud detection layer he had built. It asked for deep machine learning experience in financial risk. The description read like a summary of his work at Arkon. He read it twice. He applied immediately. That morning, 5 years of tenure, the algorithm, a spotless review record. By any reasonable measure, he was the only qualified internal candidate. Victor rejected his application in the first screening round. One reason given, not yet demonstrating strategic leadership. That phrase. He read it 3 times. He would return to it many times over the following months. Marcus requested a meeting. Victor was relaxed, collegial, easy. He said Marcus needed to think beyond the code. He offered a 6-month development plan, not a promotion, not a path toward one, a process that might eventually create a conversation about one. Marcus looked at the document carefully. He read it twice, then he signed it. And that same afternoon, he started something else entirely. He opened a folder on his personal laptop. He labeled it Archive. He began saving everything he had produced at Arkon, every Slack message, every email chain, every project thread, every version of every deck he had ever been asked to build. He exported his complete Git commit history from his first week. Then he wrote a personal technical specification document, a full description of the algorithm and its complete origins, every architecture decision, every design choice, every reason. He dated the document, he signed it, he saved copies in 3 separate locations. He told no one what he was doing. This is where it gets important, not because of what he found in the archive, because of what the archive would eventually find for him. 4 months into the development plan, Marcus received a PIP, a performance improvement plan. 3 line items. First item, communication gaps with cross-functional teams. Second item, visibility gaps in strategic alignment. Third item, inconsistent contribution to company direction. Not one item named a specific incident. Not one item cited a date or an example. Not one item was measurable in any way. His most recent formal review had been 6 months earlier. It called him foundational to the company's technical identity. He read the PIP once, he closed it, he kept his head down, he kept saving messages, he kept building the archive. He documented his work every day, the work he was still producing, still being asked to produce, still delivering while on a plan that said he could not. At the PIP window's end, he had 47 gigabytes of archived evidence. He had no clear plan yet. He had a quiet, specific instinct that something was hidden. He prepared because of it. Stay with me. Because what Marcus was about to discover went beyond stolen credit. It was about a decision made before the PIP was ever delivered. He was terminated on a Friday in April 2024. HR called him to a small conference room at 9 a.m. 2 people he had never spoken to. 12 minutes. End of PIP period. Performance targets not met. Victor was not present. Marcus signed nothing. He said nothing. He shook both hands. He walked to his desk. He picked up his personal laptop. He picked up the USB drive built over 6 months. He walked out. On Monday morning, Arkon Financial issued a press release. A licensing agreement with Meridian National Bank, proprietary risk assessment algorithm developed by Arkon's engineering leadership. Deal value, $4.2 million, 5-year term, renewable. Victor was quoted in the release. He said, "This technology represents 3 years of focused innovation." He said, "We are proud to bring it to Meridian's customers." Marcus read this on his phone at 8:14 a.m. He was in his apartment. He had been terminated 4 business days before this moment. He put the phone down. He sat without moving. Then he searched for employment attorneys in his city. He found Sandra Vo, 14 years in IP misappropriation and employment law. He emailed her at 9:30 a.m. She replied within the hour. He sent her the archive that afternoon. She called back 3 days later. She said, "I want to be careful with your expectations." She paused. Then, "But this is unusually strong." Together they filed a demand letter to Arkon Financial. The letter also named Victor Chen personally. 3 counts. First, wrongful termination. Second, IP misappropriation. Marcus as sole or primary inventor of the licensed algorithm. Third, defamation. A falsified PIP used to manufacture a reason for the termination. The exhibit package was 140 pages, 4,200 dated Git commits, Slack threads showing Marcus proposing every major architectural decision, emails showing him briefing Victor before every executive presentation, the full 43-page Series B deck he had built from scratch, his personal technical specification document, written in his words and dated 22 months before the Meridian deal. He had never been more prepared for anything. He had also never felt this deceived by anyone. Both things were fully true at the same time. Wait for it. Because Sandra Vo's review of the archive took 3 days, she was methodical. She cross-referenced every email with every Git commit timestamp. She matched every deck version with the meeting it was used in. She identified 14 presentations where Victor had discussed the algorithm. In every one, Marcus had briefed Victor in the days before. In every one, Marcus's technical summary was in Victor's prep folder. In every one, Victor's prep folder had no original content from Victor. She also identified something else, a gap in Marcus's commit history. 3 weeks, March 2023, where the commit frequency dropped sharply. She asked Marcus about it. He remembered that month. Victor told him to stop committing changes to the main branch. He had said, "The board wants clean commit histories before the Series B." Marcus had believed this. He had developed locally for 3 weeks and merged everything at once. Sandra Vo looked at this date. Then she looked at the calendar invite from Discovery. The invite was for a meeting between Victor and the patent attorney. It was dated 1 week into that same 3-week gap. Victor had asked Marcus to reduce visible commit activity. He made that request 1 week before the patent attorney meeting. That was in the filing Sandra Vo submitted 3 months later. Arkon's legal team filed a motion to dismiss within 30 days. Their position was brief and confident. Marcus was an at-will employee. All work product belonged to the company. His termination was performance-based and properly documented. Attribution of the algorithm was an internal business decision. No legal dimension. Motion to dismiss. They did not dispute the 4U200 commits. They did not contest that Marcus built the model. They argued that none of this had any legal standing. Sandra Vo filed for discovery. Arkon resisted at every step. They claimed trade secret protections. They challenged the scope of the request. They filed extensions. They delayed production for months. A federal judge ordered full production, all internal communications on the algorithm's development, all communications related to the Meridian licensing transaction. Victor Chen's emails were subpoenaed in full. And here is what they had not thought through. Victor had not been careful inside the company. He had believed the internal story was the permanent record, that his version of events was what had happened, that what he said in a room became the documented truth. He was wrong. Discovery returned 11 emails, 4 Slack threads, 1 calendar invite, 8 months of internal communications. Sandra Vo reviewed them in one evening. She sent Marcus a summary the next morning. Time, 6:30 a.m. Subject line, "We have everything we need." One email stood apart from every other document in the set. Victor to the CEO, dated 2 days before Marcus received his termination notice. He wrote, "Move Marcus out before the Meridian deal closes." He wrote, "Once he sees the terms, he will ask about attribution." He wrote, "Better resolved on our timeline." The CEO replied within 4 hours. 2 words, "Agreed. Handle it cleanly." Marcus read this at his kitchen table. He had suspected this. He had documented because he suspected. Seeing it written was a different kind of shock. Seeing the scheduled timing laid out in someone else's handwriting. The betrayal had not been accidental. It had been planned. It had been emailed. It had been confirmed. He had claimed to build the algorithm. He had arranged to remove the person who built it before the deal closed, before the money arrived, on their timeline. There was a second email, sent 3 weeks before the investor pitch. The pitch where Victor said, "I spent 3 years developing this model." Victor had emailed the company's patent attorney. He wrote, "For the filing, we will list me as primary inventor." He wrote, "Marcus built the code." He wrote, "He does not have the business context for positioning this." He wrote, "I will explain the narrative on a call." The patent attorney replied. He asked, "Is Marcus a co-inventor under the legal definition?" He said, "We cannot file with misattribution." Victor replied, "He wrote the code. I conceived the product." He said, "That is the distinction we are going with." Marcus's technical specification document was submitted in full as a discovery exhibit. It predated Victor's claimed conception by 19 months. 19 months. It described the product entirely: architecture, training methodology, fraud detection framework, accuracy targets, the full design, Marcus's words, his signature, his date. Victor had a copy in his email inbox. He had read it. He had made editorial comments in the margins of the document. His tracked changes were still embedded in the file. His edits were time-stamped. He had commented on Marcus's specification. He had suggested phrasing for the executive summary section. Then he told a patent attorney he had conceived the product. Sandra Vo brought this to deposition. She asked Victor, "When did you first conceive of this algorithm?" He answered, "At Arkon, I developed the strategic vision for this technology." She asked, "Did you write this document?" Long pause. He said, "I reviewed it." She asked, "Did you make editorial comments in this document?" He said, "I may have suggested some framing adjustments." She said, "Your tracked changes predate the patent declaration by 19 months. She asked, "Are you the inventor of this algorithm, Mr. Chen?" Victor asked for a recess. He did not return to the question. And this is the moment that matters, not because of the recess, but because of what he could not say in that room. Because there was no answer he could give that held. Arkon Financial settled 4 months before trial. The amount, $1.87 million. 3 parts. Part 1, $490,000 in lost wages, 5 years of service. The denied promotion salary included. Part 2, $1.1 million in IP licensing royalties from the Meridian deal. Marcus's authorship share, calculated from the full deal value. Part 3, $280,000 in defamation damages for the PIP that called him underperforming. The PIP created 9 months before it was delivered, manufactured to justify a removal that had been decided long before. One settlement condition was stated in writing. Marcus is listed as co-inventor on the patent. The USPTO filing was formally amended. His name appears in the executed license agreement with Meridian National Bank. The company that fired him now shares a patent with him. That fact stands by court order. Victor Chen resigned from Arkon 14 days after the settlement. No announcement, no public statement. He updated his LinkedIn profile within the week. He lists himself now as a strategic consultant in fintech. His profile photo shows him speaking at a conference. The slide visible behind him is not attributed to anyone. The CEO who wrote "Handle it cleanly" retained his position. He was not named publicly in the settlement documents. Marcus does not call this complete justice. He has said so plainly. He filed a second action with the USPTO's Office of Petitions, a challenge to the original inventorship declaration under federal patent law. That process is still ongoing. He posts updates on a private blog. He does not work in fintech anymore. He consults for employment attorneys on IP misappropriation cases. He reviews evidence packages. He explains what a Git commit history proves in court. He explains what a time-stamped Slack thread establishes. He explains what a missing commit record reveals in court. He gets paid well to explain these things, better than he was paid at Arkon for 3 years. He also gives talks at engineering conferences now. He speaks about documentation as a form of professional protection. He tells audiences, document your decisions, not just your code. Document when, document why, document who was present. He tells them, your Git history is a legal record. It does not care about your title. It does not care about your manager's title. It only records what was written, when, and by whom. Audiences often ask him, did you know at the time that this would matter? His answer is always the same. He says, no, I documented because that is how I work. I did it because I believed the reasoning was the work. He pauses at this point in the talk. Then he says, Victor taught me one thing I did not expect. He says, my instinct to document was not just good engineering practice. It was the most important thing I ever did at that company. He is precise at this work. He has the archive to thank for it. Let us name what happened here. Victor Chen is what organizational psychology calls a high-functioning narcissist in authority. Not the dramatic kind, not obviously cruel, charming, polished, effective in senior-level rooms, good at stories, good at credit, good at being perceived as the source of good outcomes. He was not good at building things, but he was extraordinary at becoming the person who had. This is not laziness. It is a deliberate and practiced system. In organizational psychology, it has a name: narcissistic supply extraction. A narcissist in leadership does not need to do the work. They need to be seen as the person who did it. This distinction sounds subtle. It is not subtle. Every briefing Marcus gave Victor was raw material. Every deck he built became content for someone else to present. Every meeting Marcus was excluded from was a transaction, completed in his absence, attributed to someone else afterward. Marcus was not a colleague to Victor. He was a resource, a production asset, managed carefully, warmly, and with intention. The system ran smoothly as long as Marcus kept producing. When Marcus applied for that role, Victor experienced narcissistic injury. He had used a smaller number of words. He had said, "I want recognition for what I built." Those words, to a narcissist in authority, are a threat. The resource had declared itself a peer. The supply source had become a competitor. The narcissist's response to this is consistent and predictable. Eliminate the threat. Contain it. Reframe it. Remove it. The PIP was not a performance management tool. It was a neutralization mechanism, a manufactured paper record, a document created to justify a decision made months before delivery. This is the part that separates this story from a bad workplace experience. Most people under a narcissist in authority never see the emails. They get the PIP, they get the vague feedback, they get told they are not a strategic thinker, they get offered a development plan, they accept it, they work harder, they hope. The narcissist counts on this response. The system depends on it. Marcus did something different. He documented, he archived, he prepared. He trusted his instinct more than the explanation he had accepted. And when discovery opened, the emails confirmed what his instinct had said. He had not been confused. He had not been misreading the situation. He had been deceived. Deliberately. With planning. In writing. Keep watching. Because this pattern does not begin with the PIP. It begins the first time someone presents your work as their own, and you stay silent because the explanation sounds reasonable. Watch for this specific pattern. A manager who attends your demos but skips your technical reviews. Credit described as shared in public. The same credit explained as how things work here when you ask. Specific praise while you are building something. Complete silence when you ask for anything in return. A development plan offered exactly where a promotion was earned. These are not management failures. They are a design. A functioning system. The system operates as long as you keep producing. The moment you name yourself as the producer, the system responds. Marcus saved everything because something shifted inside him. He could not name the shift at the time. He felt it. He acted on it. He documented, quietly, for 6 months, without a plan, without a confrontation. That instinct was the same instinct behind his work. The instinct that made him explain his reasoning at 2 a.m. The instinct behind every dated, signed decision he had ever recorded. Victor could not replicate that instinct. He could not take it. The algorithm was worth $4.2 million. The archive was worth $187 million. Marcus built both. If this story resonated, you do not carry it alone. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist, one who understands workplace trauma, one who understands what it means to give to someone who takes. Your first week is free. The link is in the description.